How is this still going on? This verse been going for way too long. If you ain't blind, you can see that this is wrong. And I won't comply. Not me, no way. I may be
Good
wrong.
morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Trudeau is at the Queen's funeral. He left with a big contingent. The other day I reported how most other countries wouldn't be allowed to bring many people, just limited to 2, and there was going to be lots of rules around private jets, etc. Seems the rules around private jets, not so true, and because it seems like Trudeau's taking a whole lot of people. I guess the 2 people rule, not true either. Very interesting. I've got that for you. Male fetishist at an Ontario school is just jaw-dropping, and we're going to look at that. Global news, global the network, teeters on the brink. Shocking, or not shocking if you've been paying attention. Global news, TikTok edition. Get woke, go broke, I think is the explanation there, and it's nice and easy. Suddenly and dramatically cooling real estate? You don't say. When you said money was going to be very cheap until at least 2023, and then you said, actually, we have to raise the interest rates to 5% right now, in early 2022, or I guess mid 2022, then that's a problem, right? A lot of problems for businesses who bet on what you said in 2020 about the interest rates staying low until at least 2023 to, finance the recovery and help people recover and, inject liquidity into the market and all that stuff, right? Not so much now, I guess. They learned their lesson and turned off the tap. Wild, absolutely wild. And weaponized people. They're sending people. Now, Faith Goldie suggested taking certain people and taking them to John Tory's house or something to that effect. But, and Democrats opened the southern border and allowed people to come in. And that's weaponization of people, because those people are being used to further a political ideology. They're being used to further by the Democrats to further their political ideology. And Canada has an open border too. We've got Roxham Road. And so the weaponization of people is happening all over the place. And I'm trying to look at this from a perspective of the people who I think are victims in this. I think that they're being sold a lie of prosperity in the West that they can partake of and the government will finance if they just get there. And if they get there, they won't be turned away. They'll be brought in and blah, blah, blah. That's the lie they're being sold. And I think that it's disingenuous because it's not, I don't think that this way of life is sustainable. I don't think that it's proper. But now something's happened. DeSantis or the Texas governor, somebody sent a plane full of migrants, the same migrants who crossed the southern border, weaponized by the Democrats. So a Republican now, is taking those people and sending a plane load of those people to Martha's Vineyard. And some people would say, yeah, a taste of their own medicine type deal. And obviously the people at Martha's Vineyard are saying we can't house these people, which is, funny considering the ideology they put forward. But fundamentally, again, those people are victims and they're being used by politicians to further their political ideology. And I have a problem with that. I don't think that's good. I think that's terrible. And that's the takeaway of this story. I don't think it's a win or a, yeah, get them or anything like that. I think, holy smokeronies, we have accepted and normalized. And there's teams on either side cheering for this or denouncing it, saying, you can't do this because it's not right to take people from Texas and send them to Martha's Vineyard. It's not right to do the other thing either, sell the dream that's not actual reality, right? It's not right. It's not right to lie to people. But anyway, there's lots to get to, so let's get to it. First, if you want to support the show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. You can check out the forums. They're free. You can do a one-time payment or a monthly subscription. You can check out my book if you're interested in that, or the merch, Bingo Bango Bongo mugs, or Holy Smoke Aronis mugs. I think there's a Holy Smoke mug there too. And just like a logo, if you want, just a logo. All of that kind of stuff. You can just sign up for Kitchen Table Talks, which happens this Sunday, returns. I'm looking forward to it. And you can check out this link here on Amazon if you're interested. Well, if you shop on Amazon and you want to support the show. You can support the show through locals as well. And you can check out all the links I put up on CanadaReport.co. It's been sporadic lately. I've been very busy. So it's been, I'm doing lots of stuff. So it's no shock that I'm busy, but sorry about the lack of links. I always think I'm going to do a short show and then it doesn't end up being a short, it'll be 40 minutes or something like that. And it's like, that's not a short show, Mark. Okay, City News is reporting, join City TV News, or City News, from London with Lisa LaFlamme. So Rogers picked up Lisa LaFlamme and they're airing it on City, and remembering the life of Queen Elizabeth II. And so if you want to watch that on the day of the funeral, which is the 19th, you could watch that. I guess they're doing a couple of days lead up to this. Maybe they're going to cover the queue. Ooh, this is the queue. Here it is. Everybody's standing in line. So British. The thread yesterday was very funny. Here's Justin Trudeau. He says, I'll be traveling to the United Kingdom tomorrow with former governors general, former prime ministers, Indigenous leaders, and others to attend the state funeral of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. More details here on the Canadian delegation. Wild. I didn't believe, somebody was reporting, but I didn't believe that we would have a large role to play in the whole Queen's funeral, because it looked like there was signals being made that it was going to be a very muted affair, and that seems not to be true. So it looks like Canada will be playing a big role with lots of a big contingent of people going. Darn climate change, right? This is the Queen's funeral, so we're going to have a prominent role with all these public servants. Yay! It's pretty wild. I want to start this story with the bottom of this thread because it gives context to where the kids are coming at this story from, and so this is. Yesterday, I guess this started trending, and I did not think it was real when I first saw it. I thought no. And then I thought it was in England, the United Kingdom, because I didn't know where it was, and I didn't watch the video because, as I said, I was busy. And I thought, I've got to look at this later. And this is just jaw-dropping. This is an Ontario high school, an Oakville high school, and the kids... Well, the tweet says, the kids here definitely don't think it's normal, but realistically, we can't say anything. Last year, the teacher was a man, and I don't think the school can fire him. And so the man is wearing prosthetic breasts with erect nipples, and he's teaching woodshop. Lily says, this male teacher allowed to expose his woman fetish to students. These men are now allowed to do anything, it seems, disturbing and sickening. And there's a picture of this man in a tight shirt with obnoxiously large breasts, obviously fake large breasts. I don't know how to describe them for anybody who's not watching. Other than that, let me know in the comments other ways you could describe what we're looking at here. And he's in workshop, like he's in shop class, by a rotary saw, and that's pretty wild. And Twam says, at first I thought this might be a hoax, but I did some Googling and it's real. I found the name of the teacher in the high school. There are multiple shots by different students on different days. This teacher is somehow allowed to act out this fetish in front of minors every day. It's wild. I don't know. Here's video of this. And I don't know how this has become acceptable and celebrated in schools because it distracts so much from the educational piece. And it does. I don't think there's an argument that it doesn't distract from the educational piece. Here's, I read this tweet already. Twam says, I first thought this was a joke. Unfiltered T says, this is ridiculous. Why are children being forced to partake in this man's fetish? It does seem very fetishy, right? And here's a picture from a student. If a female teacher did this, would that be acceptable? I don't think so. There's all sorts of pictures of the person walking around the school and teaching, interacting with kids, and it's something to be aware of. This is happening in Oakville. I don't even know if there's anything the school board would be able to do. If you bring up a concern to the school board, I think they can just ignore you. And then you can petition to the trustees. But then if the trustees ignore you, there's nothing you can do. I'm experiencing that firsthand. Right? But it is what it is. This is what we voted in. And this is insane. Women's Voices says video out of Canadian high school are going viral as they show a male teacher wearing what appears to be large prosthetic breasts in view of students. The teacher, who goes by the name Kayla Lemieux, allegedly began identifying as a woman last year. So there you go. This is happening. I don't know the appropriate response. Let me know in the comments what you think. Here is somebody from BC, and they say their Twitter handle is Women Exist. This book goes out to all new mothers in British Columbia. Children begin to show an interest in their gender identity early in life at 2 to 3 years. This is religious indoctrination. So here is the booklet open to the toddler development page, and it says gender identity, and it says children usually begin to show interest in their gender early in life at 2 to 3 years old. They see the difference between males and female bodies. Most children will call themselves either a boy or a girl. This may or may not match their sex, may or may not match the sex they were assigned at birth, and it may change over time. Wild. So there's lots of, and I can't highlight within images and things. So there's lots to unpack just with this, but I'm trying to show you just how deeply the education and academia, universities, if you make it through elementary school, high school is a whole other difficult time fraught with perhaps male fetishists walking around high school with ginormous prosthetic breasts. I mean, isn't that something that you didn't think you'd see in Ontario high schools? And so I think that it's interesting that we're preparing parents with material that is pushing a gender ideology that results in this. I don't think that that's healthy. Let me know in the comments what you think. Here's just talking about education in high school. This is kind of along the same lines, but a different paradigm. This is an Ontario high school teacher talking about the Freedom Convoy in class and tying them with Pat King and making statements that are just accusatory. I don't know. There's all sorts of misinformation here. Here we go.
What makes them so special? All of them have been arrested, the leaders of the convoy, and in reality, it was just a giant con. Right? So they raised something like $10 million. How much of that money went to actual gas and food and stuff for the protesters? Almost none of it. The organizers kept it for themselves. Right? And I don't know if you saw any of the organizers. One guy, Pat King, he was the...
I'm pretty sure that the government of Ontario froze those funds after they raised $10 million twice on two different platforms, which is twice what the Conservatives raised with Pierre Poilievre. So the misinformation is just wild. There's more to this video as well. If you're interested, there's another clip. It's wild what's going on. And I'm sorry that there's some things that are, yesterday I compared it to a washing machine where if you see something that's just incredibly crazy, you're sitting in the middle of a spin washing machine. And if you see something that's in front of you that's just crazy, and then maybe you get your friend to look, by the time you look away to get his attention or their attention, and you look back, already it's replaced with something else that's equally or more crazy. And you can't fixate on any of it. You can't stop and look and examine any of it. It's just happening so fast. And there's perhaps another, I look at life sometimes as you're falling down a hill and there are trees, and sometimes you hit trees, but even if you hit a tree, you keep going at mostly speed. And so you have to deal with the hurt of hitting the tree, and there's still more trees coming. So you have to dodge the other trees while you're, recovering from hitting a tree previously. So that's kind of what's happening here. You can't kind of stop it and examine anything. It's just happening so fast that it's blowing by, and there's no time to deal with it. There's no time to respond. There's no time to have even a rational conversation because there's more trees coming fast, right? House of Commons staffer. Let's move on. Let's talk about governance. Yesterday, I guess they're back in the House to remember the Queen. And House of Commons staffer says, in the House today, I see only one Liberal wearing a mask. Holy smoke. So the theater of them taking their masks off to speak, only to sit and replace them to virtue signal is over. Yay. Yay, I guess. Breaking news, says Rowan. Suddenly no more masks in the House of Commons. Politicians scammed Canadians for political gain. Isn't science grand? So here's a picture of Justin Trudeau yesterday, and all of the liberal people in the background. There's Jagmeet Singh, right? He's no masks, nobody in the background wearing masks. There's Blanchette, he's got no mask on. And then, remember when he went on the date with Sophie? They were masked indoors because that's the rules. I don't know, we should set a good example. Sure. It's very interesting when Justin Trudeau has Harrington Lake, and there's all sorts of publicly funded construction projects and things that Justin Trudeau has improved on during his tenure in 7 years in office as prime minister. Pierre Poilievre moved into what's it called? The official residence of the official opposition, and people are trying to do hit pieces on him. And Barbie says people are having more of a meltdown over Pierre moving into this house than Justin Trudeau spending $12,000 on groceries per month, right? Oh, right, money only matters when it comes to the Conservatives, right? You had orange juice that cost how much? That government has to fall. $6 orange juice? Outrageous. Well, I mean, nowadays that'd be kind of cheap, right? Oh man. BNN Canada reports. This made me laugh. I thought, you don't say. Just in, Canada's real estate market has suddenly and dramatically cooled. Sales have dropped 24% since this time last year. Well, it could have to do with the interest rate hike. It could have to do with the purposeful battering of the economy with the interest rates, and it could have to do with the fact that they promised that they weren't going to do that until 2023, and then they didn't. They did it early, right? So people were caught off guard, and some people had a hard time renewing their mortgages, and then some people, when they come up for renewal and the price with the changes, how do you cover the monthly difference, right? Some people are in that boat. That's terrible. I don't like that. That's awful. Maxime Bernier says, okay, so there's this meme going around. I showed it yesterday. I said, I love it. Everybody's getting on board with it. Apparently it was happening in the United States. Dean Blundell, I don't trust Dean Blundell as far as I can throw him, but he was saying, oh, this is an American bot farm that's creating this. So there's a whole bunch of Canadian bots that are doing this. And Maxime Bernier is a bot. Oh, I met him. So I'm pretty sure he's not a bot, but I interviewed him too. It was fun. But he says, I'm 59, married to Catherine, and with 2 daughters from a previous marriage. I worked 19 years in finance and insurance and 16 years in politics to maximize freedom and prosperity, including 6 as a minister. My government thinks I'm now a dangerous extremist. So he's jumping on the meme train as well. And I think that it's good. I mean, the messaging is getting out there. Again, the censorship is just unbelievable. And I do think that censorship is a large part of it. But I don't know what the magic sauce is that made Mr. Poilievre go really viral and prevents Mr. Bernier from having similar success, even in pockets, right? And I mean, the growth of the PPC has been respectful. I mean, it's one of the fastest growing parties in Canada. It's just one of those things where I look at the political climate in Canada and I see a single party made up of most of the Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, the NDP, the Greens, and mostly the Bloc too. And I see them as a single party really offering nothing different. They don't offer much different. And even Mr. Poilievre, he's not offering all that much different. He said, stop the taxes, stop new taxes, stop new taxes. They're doing tax on tax on tax on tax on tax. He says he's going to repeal the carbon tax. Fine. But I mean, there's a whole lot more that can be undone rather than stopping the new ones that are scheduled to come in, right? So that's his push. But I really do think that censorship, anyway, back to my point, is playing a role because those parties are offering very, very little difference. And Bernier is offering a stark difference. And the fact that there isn't more of a catching fire, there isn't more, I don't know, cohesion, something. There's something missing. I don't know what it is. I wish that I knew what it was so I could tell them and say, do this. But I don't know. Anyway, regardless, that's just, I mean, nothing you can do about it. Cian Bext is reporting about the Upper Grand District School Board. Holy smokeronies. I think I feel collaboration going on. I should send him an email and say, look, I did a 7-part series on this. And apparently I've got... Never mind. I won't tell you about Reddit. It's ridiculous. But Cian is talking about the Upper Grand District School Board here. He says 1,000 people have signed our petition in the last 10 minutes. Help us try to stop this Canadian school board's sexual interest census that they're telling children to fill out. Add your name here before Monday when this horrid document gets sent to kids. And the document asks for, in grade 7, the child's sexual preferences, who they're sexually attracted to, like what's your gender, and it actually specifically asks who you're sexually attracted to. There's a slide, hold on. Here is the screenshot that's being shared by Upper Grand parents. It says, parents, legal guardians, and students will be asked this question if the student is in grade 7 or above. Sexual orientation refers to a person's sense of sexual attraction to people of the same or different sex. What is your child's sexual orientation? Select all that apply. So people are, this parent says, on Monday, my kid's school will be sending home a survey asking who my 12-year-old is sexually attracted to. How is this okay? These results, if answered, will be on every child's record for any adult working in the school and board to see. So could be problematic. You could have somebody who is nefarious using those records to, I don't know, target kids, which is the concern. And you don't want that. People don't want that. So I don't know. Will the board listen to parents' concerns? Historically, the answer is no. Sorry. I just know from experience. So, I mean, if we want different things, we need to vote for different people. ISN is talking about, this is a former police person, I believe, talking about the deceased constable, and he says, we've lost our way. I thought it was a good piece, so I was just going to read it. He says, I met Andrew Hong when he was assigned to my platoon in 2000, fresh out of the Ontario Police College. My first interaction with him came by phone call. Andrew took the time to schedule a meeting to introduce himself a week prior to starting his first shift. So before I even met this gentle giant of a man, I already had a great first impression of him. He was kind and smart with a good sense of humor. He was executed yesterday in cold blood while eating his lunch. My heart breaks for his family and friends and for his brothers and sisters in blue. This should not have happened to Andrew or any other police officer, but it did. I'm angry that we have been forced to watch while politicians have sided with special interest groups and banned essential police functions like street checks and carding designed to gather intelligence. Tavis gang enforcement initiatives and school police, loved by most teachers and students who were successful in building relationships with youth, canceled because a few felt intimidated. Today, the gangs run wild in the streets, carrying firearms with impunity as a result. The police are not allowed to keep crime statistics based on race, but are expected to apologize for statistics that contain no context or reality in terms of what's happening on our streets and in our communities. I never met a police officer who targeted or went after people based on their race, but I have met thousands who would risk their lives daily to help people in the most violent gang territory in the country. Gangs are ruining our communities and have become the number one public safety threat to the police and the communities they serve. We need strong political leadership with a plan that includes supporting law enforcement. Andrew Hong was a great man, a fine police officer, and we should not be planning his funeral this week. His murderer should have been in jail. And like all gang members, he should not be walking the streets with a loaded illegal gun, knowing that he can't be stopped and investigated. We have lost our way and we have lost control of our streets. Andrew deserves better than that, and his tragic murder has to be a launch point for immediate, honest conversation and action. Quite simply, support the police and give them back the tools to combat violence. Not everybody will be happy about that, but I truly believe most people will. I worked in schools when the officer program was first brought in. I was in a co-op. And then when the officer program rolled out, I worked directly with officers in schools to help because I was a youth care worker. And so, I saw the program. The teachers loved it. The students loved it. The at-risk students liked it. And just the general population of students liked being able to talk to the officer about whatever questions or whatever. And removal of it was not based on data at all. And it's one of those things that it should be discussed. It should be discussed on its merits rather than the imagined offenses of a few small special interest people. And they're very loud, but holy cow, we need common sense back. The leader of the opposition is taking aim at inflation. He says financial forecasters who actually think about monetary policy say Trudeau's continued spending fueled by inflation, deficits, and taxes will pour more gas on the just inflation fire, cap government spending, and stop planned tax hikes on workers and seniors to get inflation under control. You could undo the taxes. You could roll those back. There's a whole bunch there that are unnecessary. Don't do much anyway, right? Rolling back carbon taxes, rolling back. Andy No is reporting Sweden's prime minister has resigned in disgrace. Remember the party girl? Remember there was a party girl gate. Everybody and the Swedish women who were far left and that the left wanted to promote were saying, "Oh, I'm going to dance and party and I'm so professional, blah blah blah," but the partying was just a canary in the coal mine. Apparently, people in Sweden wanted a change. So Andy No says Sweden's prime minister has resigned in disgrace after her left-wing bloc lost to the right-wing parties. Immigration and crime were at the center of the election. Under decades of dominance by the liberal Social Democrats, Sweden developed violent migrant ghettos. The other day, I was talking about how the travel industry is imploding. I buried the lead. I didn't talk much about the bonuses that they gave themselves. Holly Doan puts it much better than I did. She says, no one is in charge when the cat's away. It's bonus time. Canadian Tourism Commission executives lay off 9% of their staff during the pandemic, and then they award themselves $1.2 million in bonuses. What? What? So, Canadian tourism is I think, probably some kind of scam paid for by our tax dollars. I don't think that we should be giving these guys bonuses in a time when they're laying off 9% of their working force. And I mean, maybe there's context. Maybe the bonuses were like, we only laid off 9% and we did a great job and we deserve all that money. That if we didn't take these bonuses, we could have probably kept these 9 people. You're exaggerating, Mark. How much? 1.2 million divided by 9. That's over 100,000 each, right? Okay. CTV News says anti-hate experts, moving into freedom of speech, because freedom of speech, man, we got to talk about it. Anti-hate experts. So the people who are being paid off by Justin Trudeau to agitate in the news and stuff, those anti-hate networks, experts, the people who are misrepresenting and purposely going after right-wing people and right-wing people like Diagolon, those experts, yeah, they're asking to have action against right-wing extremism in Canada. The right-wing extremism, eh? Interesting. Hans says, for 50 years, I thought I was alone in clearly seeing how disgracefully devious and dishonest the mainstream media, what I call the junk news industry, really is. Going through the comments in this thread, it is reassuring to see that so many Canadians are no longer fooled. And who is fomenting hatred in Canada? And it's a lot of City News, Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, Winnipeg Sun too, actually. Oh, Warren Kinsella. That's why. There we go. That's why. Although some Sun article, like some Sun employees like Anthony Fury, Joe Warmington, I think that they're salty the earth kind of guys who are old fashioned kind of reporters and who want to just report truth generally, right? I think that they're just calling it like they see it, honestly. And then there are people like David Aiken and Global News TikTok edition, who I think are probably bad actors, or so ideologically taken with themselves and their position that they can't see the forest from the trees. I'm not sure which. Both are equally likely, but who knows really at this point in time. And so like, there's no trust in the media. I look at this stuff and I do my best to show you raw footage of what people actually say or what people actually put on Twitter, etc. And then if I see a news article like this, like CTV News, this isn't truth. I hope you don't see me reporting CTV News anti-hate experts urge action against the alt-right as like that's needed. It's not. It's not. What's needed is a really, really serious national conversation. Like a situation like you got home late and your parents are at the kitchen table and like you try and sneak in, you turn the light on, you see both your parents sitting at the kitchen table and they say, sit down. And you're like, oh no, they're not even yelling. They're that mad, like, oh, I've done something wrong. We're not angry. We're disappointed. Oh no, even worse, right? We need to have that kind of conversation. Canada, sit down. Right. And so it's just wild that the news is saying this. Holly Doan says, Global News, teeters on the brink. Executive VP Troy Reeb tells Senate needs measures to support the news. We can no longer do this alone. Well, I think that we should probably let it die. Let it die. Let it rot and let the corpse. Well, I mean, if it's worthwhile, maybe somebody will buy it, right? Maybe give them $15 for the name and the domains and all that, right? $10 bucks. All right. Now I'm sure somebody would want to capitalize on, there's a lot of links and all that. You get access to Google News and all sorts of benefits if you bought the Google domain. Somebody would see the value in that, or the global domain. Somebody would see the value in that and snap it up quick, and maybe turn it around until they could start putting out propaganda that was effective again. But at this point in time, if they're sitting there asking for a government handout, the newspapers got the government handout. Global News likes to remind people that TV stations didn't get the government handout, and they want a piece of it. Obviously, they can't do it alone, they say. Well, I think it's maybe time to sink or swim, Global. If people don't like your content, maybe it's you and not a problem with alt-right people or whatever. Here's another reaction to CTV News running that nonsense story. Friends of Science. This is the second one, but I thought I'll just read this. Here's what happens when censorship kicks in. Famine, genocide. Is that what you want? Already millions in the world are facing heat or eat poverty because of dissenting views on climate and energy were blocked by mainstream media. And so there is problems with the idea that the biggest problem is right-wing extremism, when the biggest problem is an energy shortage, a food shortage. People are starving now. We could really unleash Canadian productivity to solve this problem in a way that Canadians could produce to our desired price. We're an oil producing nation. We could have pipelines going all across the country. We could have tidal pipelines that produced LNG to send to Asian nations to get them off coal. We could do all sorts of great stuff. But instead, we're sitting here talking about right-wing extremism. They want to have babies? Don't they know the kid might be fill in the blank? It's crazy. I mean, I wonder why Global News doesn't have any credibility, right? Here's David Aiken. I'm not going to play this again, but remember when David Aiken lost his mind and tried to pull a dominance move on the conservative leader on his first day on the job during his first speech? What a jerk. How did that guy become the political bureau chief at Global News? And now Global News is saying, we can't do it alone. Shocker. Maybe you should fire the bad staff, the bad apples. There's a word that I was going to say separating the wheat from the chaff and fire the chaff, but too far. So let's talk about weaponized people. We'll talk about the vaccine first, and then we'll talk about weaponized people, because the weaponized people is happening in Martha's Vineyard. But I think that there's a parallel story about Canada, and we're just in the first phase of this. And there's going to be somebody who says we should send these people there, and we're just as bad. Anybody who says that, anybody who tries to use those people as weapons, the way they're being used as weapons and manipulated by the left at this point in time, is wrong. They're not right. That's not the right thing to do. These people are victims. We should stop victimizing them. And that's that, period. We shouldn't use them for political gain. We should stop victimizing them and then stop our country from using them as political wedges and victims themselves. We ourselves shouldn't engage in the evil that we see. Just because they're doing it doesn't mean we should. Maxime Vernier says, he's responding to Denmark. Denmark and Germany are ending their COVID jabs for people under 50. Denmark yesterday, and then I saw news of Germany doing the same, but then it was AstraZeneca from 2021, and I thought, did I just get the wrong? Because I looked up Germany ending the jab, and then what popped up was 2021, and I thought, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. And then I looked in latest, but like I said, I was busy. So I don't have a link for the German one. I'll keep an eye out for that today. And however, that's interesting. Canada is ignoring other countries that have stopped a whole bunch of things, including, ArriveCan's still enacted. There's still all sorts of quarantine rules. They're betting on, in my opinion, a bad flu season. And that's something else. That's absolutely wild to live through. Okay, let's talk about weaponized people. So I'm responding to Ryan. Ryan says, if Martha's Vineyard can't handle 50 illegal immigrants, imagine if we sent them 1,000. And this is just engaging in exactly the same game as the left, only they're doing it to a targeted group of people, decision makers, to encourage them to close the border. Do I think that that's correct? Not really. No, not really. I think that they should close the border. And is this an effective protest? It's very interesting, but I think that the collateral damage of using the people as the weapon is too big a price to pay to use them that way. Okay. Here's somebody, I don't know who this person is, but somebody in Martha's Vineyard saying they need to go somewhere else. That's a direct quote. Here we go.
So, what are the most difficult challenges right now?
The difficult challenges are we have, at some point in time, they have to move from here to somewhere else, right? We don't have the services to take care of 50 immigrants, and we certainly don't have housing. We're in a housing crisis as we are on this island, and so we can't house everyone here that lives here and works here. We don't have housing for 50 more people. So
we have to move from here.
The difficult challenge.
It's going to play again. She's saying they have to move from here to somewhere else. Where is the somewhere else? And so it's a very interesting thing when put into practice how much the song changes. Again, I don't agree with the tactic. It's happening, and people are calling for it. They're calling to double, triple, and quadruple down on it. Gavin Newsom is saying that they want to charge, it was Governor DeSantis and Governor Abbott, so Florida and Texas. They said Gavin Newsom asked the Department of Justice to file kidnapping charges against DeSantis and Abbott for transporting illegals to sanctuary cities. Kidnapping, ouch. So, okay, all right, now hold on. The fact that these are sanctuary cities, is Martha's Vineyard a sanctuary city? If it's a sanctuary city and they've said anybody who can come here and wants to come here and we're going to take care of you, then that's a different story in my opinion, because the people have spoken and they've said that we want to take care of these people because we want to be a sanctuary city. And again, I don't think that a city should be able to declare a moratorium on laws that are being that are being enacted, like not allowing ICE in the United States to operate in certain states, or not allowing ICE to operate in certain cities like New York. I don't know if there's similar people who are trying to enact that in Canada. I don't have any examples off the top of my head. When Andrea Horwath was campaigning for Ontario Premier, she was saying that sanctuary city was something, or sanctuary province was something that really didn't mean anything. It was just some words. And it's one of the reasons I started Canada Poly, actually, because I realized that in order to say that, no, there's more than that, you have to talk to people more than one day. And so that's why I talk to you every day, I think. Well, not exactly, but partially, I guess. And so if they say it's a sanctuary city, and then the people who they claim to represent show up and ask for sanctuary, and then they don't provide sanctuary, that's a different story altogether. So just that little bit, the sanctuary city part, changes the whole story, right? Goodness me. So yeah, it's an interesting tactic. Again, I think that there's collateral damage here that's not being factored in, even though it's a sanctuary city. I'm against it less with the sanctuary city status. But I still think the people are being put in the chamber, right? Like it's the people who are being loaded, and it's the people who are being weaponized. And I don't like that. There's something fundamentally wrong about that. That's what my little thread here said. I'm not going to read it, but that's what it said. And I didn't want to forget because I thought it was important. Anyway, that's why I put it there. But I guess it's what is it? A 36-minute show, 37 minutes. I guess I could, I'm not going to talk for needlessly or anything like that, but there's a lot going on, and it's fast, and it's hard to keep track of. And there are things like the gentleman with the large prosthetic breasts that seem to be demanding attention, right? And will probably become a news article and become a flashpoint of some kind of backlash, I'm sure. And there are other wild and crazy things happening geopolitically worldwide, Canada being held up as in a high place for this funeral, etc. What does that signal? I have no idea. I really didn't think it was going to happen, but here we are. So it's very interesting to watch. It's very interesting from a micro level, from the school board level, at all the people who seem to be fighting for sanity, because there are, from people like Mike Ramsey and Chanel Fall, and there are a whole bunch of people who are really standing up and willing to take this fight to the place that it needs to go. And that's interesting to me. And I think there's a lot of people who are waking up to just how damaging so many years of liberal socialist policies are, particularly to productivity and all sorts of different problems that are cropping up. And soft on crime is leading to gun crime, is leading to violence in the streets, is leading to a cop executed, and people really feeling viscerally that this isn't really like the country it used to be. And that's going to drive change probably. But we'll see, because we're looking at it daily. And so maybe it's hard to see, but the rot seems easy to see. Holy smoke. Anyway, that's enough out of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com, check out CanadaReport.co, check out Speaking Moistly and all the stuff I do on there, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.